Now we are starting to record. I hope.
Well, I want to
Yeah.
I want to thank everyone for participating tonight, and hopefully this goes well. I have a little history of myself, if you like. I'm going to go over that briefly. I was born and raised in Alabama. I had 8 years in the Air Force. I was an aircraft radio repairman and missile guidance repairman. My last base was Southeast Asia, and I left the Air Force in 1967. I joined a company named Philco Ford. We were doing satellite tracking out of New England. I entered the computer repair business with Sanders Data Systems in Nashua, New Hampshire. After retiring from computer repair, I was a cabinet maker for quite a few years. Like 1989 to 2002, we were cabinet makers, Bonnie and I. And I started knife making in 1998. I started carving in like 1985 while we're doing family boating. There's a lot of good memories there. And at the time, I couldn't find carving tools that I really liked that I could actually feel like I could afford. So I decided to try and make my own, and I did. And they turned out pretty good, and I used them at carving rendezvous on the weekend, and people saw them and tried them and liked them. So I made some for them. And eventually I was selling them out of a tackle box at some of these rendezvous we went to. So from there, the demand took off, and I sold them at carving shows. So the technique and style evolved from there. I started full-time knife making in 2002. And our tools have a lifetime guarantee and lifetime sharpening. For my carving experience, I took many carving lessons from established carvers like Cleve Taylor, Dave Stetson, Eldon Humphrey, Harold Enlow, Harley Refsel, and Chris Hammock, and a few others that I can't remember at the time. So that's pretty much my history in brief. So if you have any other questions on that, you can ask, and otherwise we'll start our tour of the shop.
Just to remind us, Gil, where are you located?
We're located at presently in Arlington, Washington, which is about it's about 40 miles north of Seattle. Okay, you're seeing a shop image now, right?
We are.
Okay.
Perfect.
So I'm going to do a walk up to the front of the shop and start there. The shop we have here is 36 by 60 feet. It's a good sized shop. We have plenty of room here. And first thing I want to show you is the machine we use to cut the blanks out for our tools, for the majority of our tools. Some tools we use drill rod for making some of the gouges, but most of the tools are made on this machine, which is called Plasma Cam. It's a CNC controlled metal cutting machine. So I have some steel on the machine now, and it's ready to cut. I'm going to go ahead and cut a couple of these so you can see how this works. Hopefully, I'm gonna stand behind the cutter because I don't want the cutter to blind anyone, because you can't look at the cutter when it's cutting. So, but first, I just remembered I need to. This is one of our shop cats, by the way. Bonnie, you want to open that door for me up there? We have to open the door when we turn this fan. It's so powerful, it'll suck the smoke right out of the stove. And this shows the screen of the actual file. This is actually a skew. We call it a skew, and it'll cut about 50 of those at one time from one plate. So I'll start the process. So as you can see, it'll just continue to cut, and the tools will just fall out below. But the fan sucks all of those smoke and gases outside. So I'm going to turn that back off again.
Gil, either now or later, could you talk about the steel that you use?
The steel we're using in this case is 1080 high carbon tool steel. So some of the tools are made from 01 tool steel, which is a drill rod stock. But the flat tools like this are made from 1080. Hopefully that image you saw from the cutting was okay. It's hard to tell with that bright light. So
No, it worked fine.
it worked okay, good.
Yeah.
So I'll walk over this way and show you the wall with all the different grinders on it. Now, if we're doing a gouge or a V tool or any of the tools, anytime anybody comes in and says, "Why do you have so many grinders?" Well, each grinding wheel is set up and shaped for a different tool. So when we want to make a V tool or a number 9 or a number 2, we go to that machine. So we don't have to reshape each grinding wheel each time we want a different tool. So that's why there's so many here. So we do about, I think, around 140 to 150 total different tools. So that's the reason for that. So from the plasma cam, which we just demonstrated, the tools will go to these bins. These bins store all the different blanks that we have, and I'll pull one out and show it to you. This is a 1-inch blank for a 1-inch gouge. So there's 2 tools on each blank, one on each end. So we found out early on that it's really easier to hole while shaping if you have one on each end, because they get pretty hot. Okay, and from there we go to our belt grinders. I have 2 here and I have another 3 on the other side of the wall. So the blanks will be roughed in specifically on this grinder. It'll be a flat grind from the back edge to the cutting edge, and that's just a rough grind. And after they're rough ground, then we'll go to the heat treating station, or the hot bench, which is right over here. So here we have a torch, and it's connected to oxygen and propane. That's what I use for the torch to get them red hot. And then we use an arbor press And the arbor press has punches and dies for the different V tools and different gouges. And from there, after we get the tool red hot, we'll quench it in a special oil that we have. And after that's done, they'll go to a tempering oven. This is the tempering oven. This oven will heat up to approximately almost about 2,800 degrees. So, but we use a certain temperature we've learned to get a Rockwell hardness of 59 to 60. And we know what the Rockwell is because we have a hardness tester. And I can probably show you quickly how that one works. I don't know, a lot of you have never seen a hardness tester, and this is just a recent purchase. I think this tool, so I'm going to bring it up. What I'm looking at is this dial. I want to turn it so it goes around 3 times. And then I'll do what is called a loading. I'll load it. And you see the other handle moving. Now it's pressing down on the steel. It has a diamond tip. And when that movement stops, I'll do what's called an unload. And that'll point to the exact Rockwell of this steel. I check each batch. We do maybe 50 tools at a time. And I check each batch with the Rockwell to make sure it's correct. So now I unload it. And this particular one shows about a 57, 58. But probably because I didn't blow the dust out. It's a very sensitive machine. So,
Gil, what would you do if it tested the 55 as an example? Is there a recovery process? Or would you scratch the batch, or what?
well, if it's tested too low of a Rockwell, then I would have to requench it and put it back in the oven and lower the temperature of the tempering oven to bring the Rockwell hardness up. But we do check each batch. And I know the last batch I checked was some mini details and they were right on Rockwell 60. So we're confident of the hardness of the tools as they go out.
So 60 is your standard. What is your variance that you accept?
About 58 to 61 is we found is the toughest, to where it won't bend or it won't break. If you get it too soft, the tip will bend over. If you get it too hard, if you like run to Rockwell 65 or something like that, the tip would be too brittle and it might break off.
Yeah. Gil, there was a question that was posed earlier that I just saw, which is about the steel. And the question is, what alloy is the steel sheet?
I'm not sure what exactly is in the alloy. I'm not privy to that information, but I do know that it's 1080, and I know that 1080 is an extremely good steel for tool making. And I'm sorry, I can't answer what the actual alloy is in that. Now this machine, I'm sorry, go ahead.
If we were making our own tools by hand, is that something, can we buy 1080 on Amazon or somewhere?
You can buy 1080 probably on from MSC Company or Admiral Steel in Illinois. Now this machine is a Lathe Duplicator. There's a template that this rides on as we move across, and it brings the cutter in and out. And we wind up with these handles. So there's two handles on each blank. These are gouge handles. These are rough turns, so they'll be final turn to where they're nice and smooth. It should be a finished one here somewhere, but I don't see it. And let's see, I wanted to show you the paint booth. This is a small paint booth we have for putting the finished coatings, and our coatings are nitrocellulose lacquer, and it's a gloss lacquer. We have about 3 coats on each tool. Now these tools you see here are tools that are waiting to be finished or waiting to be painted. And I come over here, and these tools on this table are tools that are finished, and orders that are, we're filling the order. The orders aren't complete, and so all of these orders are back ordered. They're not old. They're anywhere from the 5th or 6th of this month till now. So we're keeping pretty well up on them. And as you see in the background there on that table, these are all tools that are finished and unsold and ready to be sold.
Are you finishing with the blade in? And how do you protect the blade? Or do you?
We're finishing, yes, we're finishing with the blade and the handle. And what we do is we put tape on the blade and put them in a styrofoam block like you see here. Here, let me show you that more closely. So this happens to be a chip knife. And so we put tape on the blade and we put it in the styrofoam so the blade's protected and we can still get to the end of the handle to spray it. So that's how we protect it. So once paint's dry, then the tape comes off, and then I do a final check at another station. Now these grinders are a little bit smaller belt grinders, but there's, as you can see, there's 3 different grits. There's anywhere from 400, 220, and 120 on those 3 grinders. So, and they're hooked up to a dust collection system to pick up most of the metal dust as I'm grinding, but I do wear a mask when I'm doing that also.
So you're doing the final sharpening after you do the painting?
Yeah, I'm going to show you that station. This station is where I do the final sharpening and QC testing, and I test each, and I go through each one to make sure it's razor sharp when it goes to finish or before it's shipped out. Now, behind this bin below into the outside wall, there's a large shutter fan that sucks all the debris from sharpening to the outside. So it's a good place to work, and I don't even have to wear a mask here because it sucks everything out. And I get to watch a little TV when I'm doing watching. I watched their guns from here. So and this is go ahead.
What are the wheels on that sharpening system?
This wheel is an MDF wheel, if you're familiar with that. That's medium density fiber board. It's a very hard wheel that I actually make myself, and I can shape with an angle die grinder. And this is a muslin floppy wheel, and that's the final polish will come on this wheel. This will hone the tool to razor edge, and this will do the final polish, the muslin wheel. And these wheels are 8 inches in diameter.
Is that sharpening system your invention, your development?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yeah.
Because Jeff Hardness was, that's obviously the system he uses, and a lot of his students had access to that and were trained and use it. And about half a dozen of us have that system, but it wasn't clear he always called it the Gouge rake system, but I didn't know for sure if that's what it was.
Yeah,
What compound do you use on that MDF wheel?
I used a green compound. This is chromium oxide. Seems to work best for that. And for the final polish, this is let me show you. This is from Rio Grande company. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but you can go online. This is called, I think it's called Ultra Luster, and I found that it cuts and polishes faster than anything I've used. So sometimes I'll use the same polish on both of these, but you can use the green compound or this, but this works extremely well, and it's not very expensive. But Rio Grande is a company that sells those if you're interested.
Are they running?
Now, I wanted to show you,
Gil, are they running at full speed, 3450? Or
I'm sorry. Yes,
slowing them down?
this machine runs at 3450 RPM full speed, and I got it set up so that it turns away from me, not toward me, because then I can work up here on the top of the wheel rather than under here. So I found that's much easier for me. So yeah, it turns away from me. All I did was just turn the grinder around in there so it turns away from me. And I wanted to show you some drill rod tools. Now this is 01 tool steel, and this particular one is 1/4 number 11, and as you can see, it's a very deep gouge. So it is it's ground down to 400 grit, so it's ready to polish. It's ready to go to this machine to polish out. So there's different sizes you can see. There's 1/4 inch and 1/8 inch and 1/16. And these are some of the V tools from the flat stock. This is approximately a little over 90 degrees. I want to show you what we do to engrave the handles on our tools. Bonnie's here. Hopefully she wanted to get on camera. There she is. So this is a CNC control machine also. It's a laser. It's a CO2 laser. As you can see, it's engraving our logo Drake on the back of each knife handle. And those are knife handles you see there. So we'll load this up and we'll do like 36 handles at one time. So it'll go through and engrave each handle. And as it finishes, it'll go back to the home position. So that's our engraving process. This is my little carving area. And as you can see, I like to start carvings. I need to get busy and finish some carvings, but yeah, this is a good place to work right here. So. And up front is Bonnie's mailing system. I'll go through that with you a little bit. Hopefully this video is not too jumpy.
No, it works great.
This is Bonnie's mailing area. She goes to the post office at the last minute almost every day. They're usually standing there waiting for her, ready to close the door when she brings her. She usually has one of these mail crates full of orders almost every day. So this is where she works. This is her domain, and I don't dare touch it. So she does a great job.
Gil, I've got a question. With the
Sure.
complexity of what you've got there and all the machines, I mean, is it just you and Bonnie alone doing this stuff, or do you have some other people working for you? I mean, you turn out tremendous volume.
My oldest son, David, is what David 49.
Yeah.
David's 49, and he does currently he does all the handle work, which relieves me from a lot of times so that I can get the blade work done. And he's learning to do the blade work also. So at some point, you know, I'll have to retire from this. So hopefully he can take it over when that happens. But he's doing a great job, and he can't thank him enough for what he does for us. He just really freed us up to get our orders finished and get them out. So yeah, all the wooden work, the handle work is done by him, except Bonnie. This is called a flap sander or contour sander, and Bonnie does the final contour sanding on these handles. Now here's some a box of knife handles that are ready for her action at this time. So she does a lot of work here also, and also the between coats and finishing, she'll use this little wheel to knock down the raised grain after the first coat. So this is another grinder, the bigger grinder, a 3x79 that we use a lot for roughing in. So it's one of the original ones. And this is a pneumatic drum sander that David uses a lot to final sand the handles that he works on. So it is also under a dust collection system also. So I can't think of anything else.
Gil, how do
Hold on a
you
second. Go ahead.
yeah, how do you install the blade and the handle?
Okay, the blade, the handles are drilled, like for instance, the knife handles are drilled to, there's a 1/4 inch hole that's drilled in the end to a certain depth. And then the knife handles are epoxied in. I use 5-minute epoxy, and I can usually do four to 5 blades before the epoxy starts to set up. But as you can see, let me show you this. This is a chip knife, and so all the shanks on the knives are the same length. So they'll go into the handles with epoxy, and the handles are taped on the end with the hole cut out so that the epoxy doesn't get on the wood. But because the blades are so highly polished that the epoxy on the blade will come right off when we get ready to clean it up. So that's it. We epoxy them by 5-minute epoxy into the handles.
So you're sticking a flat blade shank into a round hole, is that right?
Yeah, let me see if we can find here's a knife handle without a blade. And you can see the hole. Now this end will have tape on it. And Bonnie, if you can come and just put that knife in there. So after I fill the hole with epoxy, then we'll put the blade in, and then we'll clean it up later. So that will be a chip knife as you see it. And the gouge handles are different handles, but they're the hole is the same depth as the knife handle, so I don't have to change. So we're going to bring out. So this is the gouge handle. As you can see, the hole is drilled for that. That's for a 1/8 inch tool. So as you can see, they're taped up to keep the epoxy off the wood, and then we epoxy the blade, or we fill the hole with epoxy and put the blade in. That's pretty much how the knives are put together. Outside, which is it's dark these days right now, but we have a 20-inch, a big 20-inch Delta bandsaw and a bandsaw shed outside. We have a sawmill that we cut a lot of the wood to a certain thickness, and then we bring it to that saw to cut the blanks before they go on the roughing duplicator for the gouge handles. So, and there's also another lathe outside and a lathe shed for roughing in the handles before they come inside. So we do that in the summertime, and in the wintertime we do most all of it inside. So I can't think of anything else right now. If you have any questions.
So I'm going to encourage people to either ask questions verbally or send them in a chat, and I'll just ask you while they're thinking about questions. You just talk a little bit about the time before COVID when you went to shows. How many shows did you go to? Where did you tend to go? Because that's a huge time commitment, I assume.
Yeah, initially, when we first started doing shows, we were doing up to like 20 shows a year. But then we found that it's really taken us away from the shop too much. In other words, we needed to be here longer to get our orders done, to get our tools made. So right now, before COVID, we were doing how many shows, Bonnie?
7 or 8.
About 7 or 8 shows a year. We do Glacier in Montana, Lincoln City. We do our show here, the Quill Cedar Carver show. We do the Tacoma show. We did the Salem, Oregon show. Mesa, Arizona show is the biggest show of all, and so we're really close there. That's a good commute for the Mesa show. And yeah, so right now COVID has pretty much cut out all of that. So.
Could you talk about how much time you spend in Arizona a year?
We spend 3 to 4 months a year in Arizona. We have our daughter, son-in-law, and granddaughter lives there. That's one of the primary reasons we decided we bought a park. Initially, we bought a park model home. I built a separate shop there. We worked out of there. And then we ended up with a manufactured home in Mesa, which we have there now. And I've built a shop there also, so I can fully manufacture tools in Arizona when we're there. So otherwise, we wouldn't be able to go. The business has just been amazing lately.
Okay, so we had a question about. I'm sorry. I'll read a question. It says, "Please walk us through your knives and briefly explain why there are so many different designs, and what are the specific benefits of each major knife profile." And
I'm not sure exactly.
Steve, I don't know if you're asking about knives, or specifically about knives, or also about gouges.
I was specifically asking about the knives.
The knives, I would say there's probably 20 or 30 different knives. It's just things that people have requested and suggested that we make. And some of the knives are rough out knives, or larger, heavier knives, and some of them are much smaller for fine detail. Some have an upsweep or a curved grinding edge, and most have a straight grinding edge. We have hook knives. We had a friend of ours who brought us that design and asked us to make it, and we did, and sold like crazy, and he's I forget his
Michael Keller.
Michael Keller. I don't know if you've heard of Michael or not. But there's, like I say, there's hook knives, there's miner hooks, there's the Gill special knife has been just going crazy lately. And a lot of our knives are sometimes featured on carving videos on YouTube. And we notice that once that happens, we tend to sell an awful lot of those tools. So it's driving a lot of our business. YouTube is driving a lot of our business. But the knives, some knives are similar but a little different. But mostly it's whether or not they're what we call hogger knives or heavier knives, non-flexible knives. We do make a flexible knife, which is a thinner steel. But mostly just the sizes and the upsweep and the hook. So there's all those varieties, and then there's a chip knife. So pretty much that's it on the varieties. It's just whatever our customers want, we'll generally make. If there's something that they request and we feel that it might be a good seller, we'll just put it on our website and start making them.
Gil, is there a bestseller knife for people that might not even have a knife?
The best-selling knife right now is the Gill Special. It has a, if you go on our website, you can see a picture of it. It has a finger well, and it's a knife that I love. I can show you a copy of one. This is one at a time I was doing some dyeing of the wood, and this is a green one. But as you can see, the finger well, and it just I love the knife. It just fits my hand. It's like part of my hand. I just love this knife, and that's why I named it the Gill Special, is because I love it. And it was featured on some videos on YouTube, and it's just almost gone viral on that knife.
And Bob Hutchison, you asked about a website. Yeah, obviously he does have a website. I would say Google Drake knives, and you'll get the hit at the very top.
Yeah, it's drakeknives.com.
Okay. And Gil, Bob also asked a question about sharpening. You know, what is your recommendation on how knives should be sharpened from a user's perspective?
Well, generally, I just if I'm out in the field and here I power strop everything, but in the field, if you're out carving, the best thing to use is just a flat leather covered strop with the rough side out, not the smooth side, and use the green chromium oxide for that. And actually, I just did a YouTube video. It's called Drake Knives, how to repair a broken tip and how to properly strop a knife. So you can pull that up, Drake Knives, how to repair a broken tip and sharpening, and you can see exactly how I would do it, how to properly strop a knife.
And could you comment about your sharpening guarantee? Do you get many people sending tools back to sharpen, or is it mainly at shows that happens?
It's mainly at shows, but we do get anywhere from 4 or 5 to maybe a dozen customers in a week that might send their tools back for sharpening. But our guarantee is lifetime sharpening at no cost. All you need to pay for is any postage or shipping costs to get them back to you. And of course, the tools themselves have a lifetime guarantee against, if you break a tool or break a knife or whatever happens to it, we will, if it's not repairable, we'll replace it for you. And it doesn't really matter if you're the third party, if you bought it from someone else or you bought it from me. It's, the guarantee still covers no matter what. As long as it says Drake on it, yeah.
Okay, are there any more questions, folks? We'll take a pregnant pause for a minute just to think about that. I will make a comment that Jeff Hardness made a plywood carrying case for the grinding, so the honing stropping system that Gil showed. And he didn't have those documented. So when I was a student, I documented the dimensions, and some of us built that. It's a convenient way, reasonably convenient way to carry the thing around if you have to move it. We do move it in some of the classes that we use. We have two sharpening systems, that one, and we store it in the annex of the shop, and we'll carry it a few blocks away or to other places to support the class. Because Chuck Reinhardt, our instructor, grew up with the Burke sharpening system, we bought a variation of the kind of the portable version of the Burke system. So for the guild, we have two of those power stropping systems, although the Burke has a sandpaper wheel on it that allows some kind of grinding.
Right. Someone just asked about my YouTube video.
Yeah, the question is, where is your YouTube video, and do you have a YouTube channel?
Oh, I don't think we have a YouTube channel per se at this time. I've just done one YouTube video, uploaded just one so far. And if you just go to YouTube and search Drake Knives, how to repair a broken tip, you'll get that video.
Okay. And I'll find that and send out a link to the people that registered also. So you'll get it that way as well.
Good.
Okay.
So someone just mentioned it's good to see both of us. So apparently Bonnie was in the frame.
Yeah. So that was Nancy.
Yeah. Hi, Nancy.
Nancy Gerard.
Hi, Nancy.
Now,
And
what
Nancy,
I'm seeing is the photo that I'm taking before. I didn't see any photos of anyone that came in and asked a question.
yeah, no, so you won't see that. What Gil,
Okay.
the picture, the caricatures in front of Bonnie are some of the carvings, and Gil will take one of those and do on the demo on how he carves it on December 2nd. I don't know if it'll be the demonstrator's choice, but it'll be this, that kind of carving. And Gil, you also teach, you have taught at the academy in the summers.
I've taught at the academy. We normally sell tools there. My Bonnie and I and the Lundys are the original founders of the academy. We retired from that, and someone else is taking it over now. But it was a great experience, and we're looking forward to that coming back again. We love doing that week-long rendezvous there.
So this is Ellensburg, Washington, in
Ellensburg,
July.
that's correct.
In July timeframe.
Correct. Yeah.
There's another question is from Bob Hutchinson in California again. Do you have a roughing out knife that he recommends for a beginner carver?
I think a very good rough out knife would be the Gill Special, or it's called a DK3, which has the exact same blade. It's a heavier blade. It's a 2-inch blade. It has no flex to it, so it'd be a very good rough out tool. The DK3 or the Gill Special.
On our website, it's the large detail.
On our website, it's the large detail knife.
Or the Gill Special.
And so the question I would have about detail, is that also your recommended tool for a detail knife, or would you have a different one?
I use the Go Special as a detail knife, but many people feel more comfortable with a slightly shorter blade, like a 1 3/4 or an 1.5 inch blade. Those tools will work for removing a lot of wood or fine detail also. So I'd recommend 1 3/4, 1.5 inch for that purpose.
In the realm of palm tools, are some sizes of V tools more common than others?
The most common size that's used most often is the 1/4 inch 60-degree V tool. That's one that we've pretty much sold from the get-go. And we once did a starter set which included a 1/4 V tool, a 1/4 number 9, a 5/8 number 2, and a 3/8 number 2, and a 1.5 inch detail knife. Those 5 tools we sold as a beginner's kit, which worked really well. Those are tools that you'll always use, and that there's no tools in that set that you will not use. So eventually you'll have at least those 5 tools to work with.
Another Terry Burnside in Portland asks, do you have anything different? Do you have any different sharpening? Let's see, how many read this? Terry, I'm not sure I understand the English. He's asking about different sharpening for micro tools. He said, I find them to be tricky. I guess the question is, how do you sharpen micro tools?
How about if I just unmute for a sec?
Yeah,
this is Terry. Sorry, bad type.
Terry.
Yeah, I use a number of micro tools, and I always seem to have a difficult time keeping them as sharp as I need to, or maybe trying too hard to sharpen them and losing their shape. You get a beak and a V tool or some strange thing like that. Have you experienced that? Do you have any, or is that just me?
Well, the micro tools, the really tiny micro tools, like the 1/16 and maybe the 1/8, unless they're really bad, I would just recommend buffing them. Do you have a buffing wheel, a power buffing wheel, or are you just using a strop?
I'm just using a strop. Yeah, I probably should use a wheel, a power wheel, but for some reason I'm kind of a purist about that.
Yeah.
So I do use a couple of different grits on when the tool gets a little dull, and go through those. But that's more of a hand honing process than a stropping process, right? So.
Yeah, one trick I've learned over the years, and that is if you don't have a power strop, what you can do is you can take a piece of basswood, which is really soft, and you can make an exact duplicate of the inside of the V tool, like on the corner of a piece of basswood. You don't even have to have leather on it. Just put some stropping compound and hone the inside of that tool on the corner of that basswood. The basswood is so soft, it'll form to the inside of that tool. And you can also do that with a gouge, a small gouge. So that would be a really good way for stropping the inside of one of those tools.
I actually have a couple of those, but that probably does work a little better than just about anything else I have for odd profiles. Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Are you talking about Drake micro tools or dockyards or what?
Duckyard, and actually I was using, where did I get that? I bought a profile block that's wood, and then you treat it with a white or yellow. I think actually the color is yellow, and I'm not sure what the compound is, but maybe I got that from Flex Cut, possibly.
Yeah, yellow. If it's yellow, it's probably Flex Cut. But yeah, but you can use that, or you can use the chromium oxide, the green compound. Just rub it on there and then strop the inside to be
Right.
fine.
Okay.
But if you have a micro tool that you just can't bring back, you can send it to me and I can fix it up for you.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I'll buy it from you first and then send it back to you. How about that?
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay.
You might want to flip your camera around to focus on your face. And
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't
that's
see
okay.
my face. So
Yeah, I know.
can I?
There we go.
Yeah.
So now I spotlighted you.
Okay. Yeah. So I was out of frame.
No, it's fine. We were looking at your table with the caricatures.
Okay.
And it works. It
Sorry.
works just fine. It works just fine.
Good.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, any more questions?
Jill, this is Nancy Gerard.
Hey, Nancy.
How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
Great. The one question I have is you talked about your different types of knives on the edge. You have multiple types of edges. Do you have to sharpen them differently than just a basic straight edge knife? Any of the other?
No, they're pretty much, whether it's a hook knife or a straight cutting edge or an upsweep like a high point, you would sharpen those all the same way. You'd lay it flat on the strop and just pull it, away from the cutting edge, but you keep it flat because the grind on those are pretty much a flat grind, and you don't have to lift the back edge. You just leave it flat and strop both sides. And if you pull up my YouTube video, you'll see what I'm talking about, but it explains that in better detail.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, you're welcome.
Take care.
You too. Thank you, Nancy.
So Gil, when you do the final sharpening stages, you described three grits, 120, 220, I think, and 400. Is that the progression that you're using?
Yeah, at the end, it's 120, 220, and 400 belt grinders, and that's what happens just before I bring it to the system behind me to do the final hone and buffing to bring them to a mirror finish. So yeah, those are the final grinds, those three.
And how sharp are they when they come off the 400? Is that really cuttable, or is it pretty rough still?
They're not honed at that time. They're just brought to a really 400 is a really fine grit, and I do that because it makes it much easier to polish out from a 400 than it does from a 220. So you have to go through the grit progression to get all the scratches out so you can hone them and polish them. But the actual sharpness, the razor sharpness, comes from the final buff, the muslin buff you saw on the left. And the compound I use is that Ultra that I get from Rio Grande.
So Ron Lundy sells the white compound. Is that the same thing, or is yours
No,
different?
It's not the same. I have a whole case of that white compound over there that I'll probably never use since I found this other stuff. So, but it just cuts so much faster, and it leaves a beautiful mirror finish, and when I take them off that machine, I can shave the hair on my arm.
Is that available to us as human beings, or is it a proprietary?
No, it's available to anyone. If you can write down this name, Rio Grande, they're a jewelry making supply company, and I believe they're in they're in near the Rio Grande in Texas or New Mexico or maybe Albuquerque. I'm not positive, but Rio Grande. If you go on their website, you can find that compound, and it's only for a one pound tube of it. It's only about $5 or $6.
It's a paste as opposed to a brick.
No, let me show you just a second since you brought that up. And I won't be able to go much longer because I'm in low battery mode now. But
Yeah. Okay.
it's called. Can you see that?
No. Bring it in front of your face. There we go.
You see, the company is Rio Grande, and the product is Fabulister. So this is a 1 pound tube, and so it slides out of the tube when you use it. So normally this would last a person probably most of his life. And for me, I use one of these in about a week or so.
I do have one other question about the buffing wheel. One of our instructors doesn't like it because he finds that it rounds over the edge. Are there techniques for using the buffing wheel to avoid rounding over?
It depends on I'm not sure which wheel he's using, but I've never had a round over problem with this buffing wheel that I'm using. I was trying to think of the company that I buy the buffing wheels from. They're in California. It's National Buff Company. You can buy them from them, but you want to buy the ones that are not stitched. They have only one stitching near the center hole. And depending on the size of the arbor on your grinder, you need to buy the one to fit your arbor. So. But National Buff has those wheels, and I've never had a problem with rounding over with that wheel.
I think he was using the heavily stitched version, and that's what came standard on the Burke system.
Yeah,
so I think he got burned. He got burned by that, then tends to stay away from it.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Any other questions before we leave? Gil, we'll clap, give you a thank you for your generosity, your time, and for us giving you an excuse to tidy up your shop and have some neighbors come in and visit. And I look forward to seeing you on December 2nd, and I hope some of us here can join you.
I'm looking forward to it also, and I'm glad I got my feet wet on this, so I'll feel a lot more confident next time. And also, I wanted to say before I close off that tomorrow's Veterans Day, and I just want to thank all you veterans for your service. And we know we wouldn't be here without you, so thanks for that too.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I'll just give a plug. Gil went out and bought an image stabilization device for his phone, so we all didn't get seasick as he walked around his operation. And as I recall, it was an Osmo Mobile 3. Do I remember that correctly?
That's correct.
Something about that, yeah. So it was a great device. Thank you for that investment. So that it paid off.
You're welcome.
I didn't vomit once during this whole process.
Yeah, and they're relatively inexpensive. They're right around $100 or less. For what they do, they're amazing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, good night. We'll hope that we'll have a good rest and we'll stop watching the news and get on with our lives for a while.
Good night, folks. Thanks for joining.
I'm gonna pull the plug. Good night.
Right.
Thank you, Gil.
You're
Bye.
welcome, sir.